Sheldon, good afternoon, and thank you for agreeing to speak with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so I read the article where you shared your experiences in one of the daily newspapers. I want you to start by telling me why you decided to speak about it now.
It's something that is a process in terms of like coming to terms with your past in order for you to move ahead. A lot of the things that happen to you, it becomes like a ball and chain, and the longer you keep it inside, the more it can eat you up. So I think by addressing it or by facing it, was more of a freeing perspective for me, in that once I released myself from those chains, I felt really free, and it was actually therapeutical to speak about it, something I didn't do before. I kept everything inside, and I felt that I needed to get it out. Not only for myself, but when I spoke about it openly, because there's a lot of silent sufferers who keep these things inside, and without addressing them, they'll be in the same situation that I was. For them, regardless of what walks of life they come from, you can see that we are a product of our experiences, especially from childhood. And as big a person as you can be in society today, you are still faced with the problems that everyone faces in growing up and being accepted. So for me, by coming out with it, hopefully others who are in prominent positions as well can come out as well, if need be, for the whole purpose of letting young people know that they're not alone, and that they too can become something, because we have suicides that happen because of experiences. And I had myself contemplated that many times, and for just hanging in there and becoming who I am today, is hopefully an example to others that they too can be successful.
Okay, tell me a bit about the abuse. When did it start? How old were you?
Sexual abuse, or
We could talk about both sexual and physical.
physical was quite young, about 6 or so. That in itself was more along the lines of tough parentage, what we call tough love in Caribbean. I don't think it was geared towards like a violent nature intentionally, but it was more of correctional in the very strictest terms.
At 6?
From the age of 6 until I was 18, actually. When I was 9, I stayed at some friends of the family, and from that there was someone outside of that, a neighbor, who was much older. So I didn't really have any parental influences around me at that time, or friends per se. I was 9 years old, really. So he was aware of what I went through as a child, and
The physical abuse, that is.
yeah, and he knew that I was vulnerable in a way that if I were to talk about it, then I would be afraid that the repercussions would be that I would get beaten and so on. So yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
Okay, so it started at 9, and how long did that go on for?
I think it was on 3 occasions, but over a course of about 4 months, something like that. Yeah.
Did you ever think, repercussions aside, were you ever tempted to tell? What was your mindset?
I don't know, you recluse, actually. Something you couldn't talk about, because an experience like that in a male-dominated society, how we are as Caribbean people. At 9 years old, you really don't know anything about life and so on, so you don't know how to address it, you don't know how to speak about it and so on, so you keep everything inside. But as you become a young adult, you tend to either deal with it in different ways by acting out, or joining the bad crowd, and things like that, or you just block it out. And for me, it was a little bit of both. I did not hang out with the upscale kids because they had a perfect life. You know, they would not be able to understand anything that I was going through, whether it was physical or sexual. For them, they had their polished families and so on. So speaking about any kind of problem on this level is something that they just can't comprehend. So I naturally gravitated towards the outsider groups because they more than likely went through something similar. So this is how today we look at society, we look at being back, and I'm starting to like learn more about our current situation. So more deprived areas, you find gang members and so on, and gang-related problems, killings. But you know, these are the social factors that give life to these environments that these guys are probably going through something as children, because this is where they catch them from, and then they end up forming into a group of people that that form like a brotherhood of understanding and loyalty towards that brotherhood, whereas they might not want to do what they're doing, but because they are part of the group, they follow, you know.
So they're doing it as to be included, kind of.
To be included because they're not getting the acceptance where they want, where they need to have it, you know. So, yeah.
Have you ever confronted any of your abusers?
No.
Given the opportunity, what would you say to
them? Along the way in life, I learned that if you hold on to hate or anger, it will just eat you up inside. And what's done, you can't change what has been done. It doesn't matter if it's related to this topic or if it's anything in life. A while ago, I looked at life as, let's say you have a glass of water. The glass of water is on the table and it falls, it breaks. You think to yourself, okay, how do you deal with this? Are you going to spend time worrying about the glass of water that just broke? Or are you just going to deal with the situation and clean it up? So for me, it's just been, if I were to hold on to this and go through the confrontation and so on, then it wouldn't really do me any good. For me, releasing myself from it is the best therapy for me. You know? If I were to confront anyone, who knows how that situation might turn out. There might be hidden anger inside of me that I'm not aware of that may come out and create an unstable situation. So the best thing is just to just deal with it, and, you know.
So you said you responded to your experiences by acting out and by being a bit of a recluse.
Yeah. Well, in high school, you know, these are the things that in high school, well, when you're in there, you're discovering yourself, you're discovering your personality, your sexuality, your position in life, things that you want to do. So it's a big responsibility that's happening there. And as you go through this, if you're dealing with any kind of abuse and so on, it is very hard for you to also focus on other activities such as school and so on, you know. And I think it's more of a responsibility on the teachers to learn techniques to identify the kids who may be going through problems. It is so easy for them to say, okay, that's a problem child, he's bad news or whatever, without fully understanding why, you know. All it takes is a conversation, you know. If somebody from school had sat down with me and earned my trust to divulge whatever is going on in my life, you know, become a friend, then that would have helped me a lot more in life and helped them understand me a lot more as well, instead of just thinking this is a problem child. You know, I considered myself very intelligent in high school, but I just couldn't focus, you know. You were given, especially for math classes and so on, like, so you have a whole bunch of computations, and you know, high school is more like subject after subject after subject, and you're trying to focus on school, but you just came from an environment that was really hostile. So now your release is leaving to go to school. So that time that you take to get to school is your transformation from being a person in a difficult situation to then becoming a student. And then you're immediately requested to start studying or applying yourself from 8 o'clock until school ends. So mentally, especially in that very fragile period of life, you have to cope, you know. And a lot of kids today, I'm not sure what kind of mechanisms we have in school today to deal with these things. Are there social welfare programs in school? I know we had a guidance counselor.
Yeah,
you know.
still have those.
Yeah, those are more voluntarily that you have to go there, rather than they seeking out, you know. At least for me, that's how it was. But yeah, it's a difficult process to do everything and to go through everything. So I think the onus is two-sided, where teachers, they need to pay more attention to the problem kids, and instead of viewing them as a problem child, ask themselves, okay, what could be this? You look for cues and so on. I remember in a computer class, one of my teachers had come to put his hand on my shoulder to tell me I was doing a good job. And that act of kindness, by him raising his hand, I immediately blocked myself, right? And he paused, because that reaction from me was a trigger or a sign to him that something was wrong, you know. So he spoke to me and stuff after, and I spoke to him, and yeah, and that's what you would need, you know, at that point in time, someone to talk to. Yeah.
What would you say was the catalyst for change for you, though?
When I decided to get out of Trinidad, and I made that decision. Lawrence McDowell actually is the one who I had stated before. He was the one who changed my life. You know, well, I started running because I said, okay, I looked at my life and I was saying that, okay, if I stay in Trinidad, what will my life be like? And a lot of friends were leaving to go to America and so on, and I didn't have that opportunity. So what I decided to do was that I would apply myself into some way, if it's studies or if it's running and so on. And I thought that running turned out to be the best option because I was naturally gifted in that field. So I started running, and through those efforts, that's what changed my life, you know, by getting out of Trinidad, going to university and making something of myself. Okay,
so how did your family take the news when you decided to leave Trinidad?
No, they were cool. Yeah, I mean, I was bettering myself, you know, getting accepted to university and following or continuing your education. Any parent would be happy with that. You know?
Looking back at your journey, what, if anything, would you do differently?
Well, yeah. So many things, actually. I would have probably applied myself more with track and field, because track and field for me was an avenue to do something with my life. But when I was an athlete, I became serious too late. I would have probably become serious much earlier, because I was hovering around the top 20 in the world, and I felt that if I had started a bit earlier or applied myself a bit earlier, I could have probably been in the top 10. So those are one of my regrets, yes. And then you have your normal life regrets, relationships, etc. and so on. Yeah. Okay.
Based on your experiences, did you find it difficult to have or to foster close relationships with people, be it male or female?
No, actually, a smile is the best disguise. You know, so in order for me to deal with what I was going through, I always had that personality where I didn't close myself off to others, because I needed to have that acceptance from them to feel love. So there's two ways you can go with this. If you're in an abusive situation, you could either turn out to be an abuser yourself, or you can turn out to be the complete opposite. And I chose not to be the abuser, and instead my life became more accepting of people. And I tried to be as kind as possible. I mean, friends say I'm too kind, actually. Yeah.
You held on to your secrets for many, many years. What was your family's response when you first started talking about it?
They didn't know anything. They only knew about it when I did the first interview. I never told anybody.
And what was the first thing they said to you after reading the article?
Well, the old school days. They're like, you should keep these things private and so on. I understand that logic, but that's old school logic. I looked at it as I have nothing to hide from anybody. I'm a public figure, through sport and now Borders Festival. And there's a lot of young kids that need someone to look up to. And I'm not perfect, nobody is, but I try that I can set an example.
Okay.
In effort or achievement for others to try and follow.
Do you regret coming out with your story though?
No, I don't, except that I wouldn't want like family and so on to feel offended by it,
Okay.
that they would understand that my doing this is also to help me and to help others. Sexual abuse is something men don't talk about. They will keep that private till they die. But I have no shame about it. I mean, I didn't ask for it. It's something that happened when I was 9. What can I do at 9? So there are many people today who, after sharing my story, have contacted me about their own personal tragedies. Some are very heartbreaking. But the fact that they were able to speak about it really helped them because they too kept it inside. And these were public figures, actually. So I felt that maybe I might have started something that our Caribbean culture of trying to fit into the populace as to, okay, everything is great in my life, social media and so on. We post pictures, everybody is smiling. And behind closed doors is like something different, right? There's a lot of women who go through physical abuse today. Even in our music, you hear the respect for women as well. I don't know if you can see that on TV, but so what I would hope is that we become a more inclusive society, regardless of sex or gender or class, where everyone, like in the old days, we used to be together.
What do you think could be done to encourage more men to come forward with their experiences of abuse?
I think Trinidad culture would be very hard to do that. For them, it's just about letting go. I think you have to not really care about what people say. And I think after spending the last 17 years in Finland, when I came back, it was a different person who came back to Trinidad.
Okay.
My mentality is strictly equal and accepting for everybody I face. And if I had been in Trinidad instead, I think I probably would have kept it to myself. Because it's a different culture over there entirely. People speak about these things. It's not a mainstream thing, but people aren't that afraid to express themselves, right? In Trinidad, we have a more reclusive mentality with sexuality and so on, maybe from religion and things like that. You might be afraid that someone would tease you about it, but if you are confident about who you are as a person, these things wouldn't really bother you.
Do you find people have been treating you differently since you came forward with your story?
No. If anything, with this story, there were many responses being positive. There wasn't anyone negative about it, and even if there would have been, it really wouldn't have bothered me. I was trying to be as open and honest as possible about things. I've already dealt with it personally, but dealing with it publicly is more to help others than myself.
Did you ever seek counseling, or is this something that you were able to work through on your own?
No, I never saw counseling. As an athlete, that was my pressure release.
Okay.
Because when you're training on that level, it's twice a day, sometimes 3, and it's maximum efforts about 4 times a week. So you're pushing yourself to the level that nothing else really matters. You know, it's your body against your mind. So that for me was my my therapy. Yeah.
Okay, what advice do you have for persons who may be going through some of what you went through, fellow survivors?
If it's if it's continuing or if it has happened.
Both.
Okay, well, if it's continuing, you need to get out of that situation. For women, if your man is abusing you, you need to get out. There's just no two ways about it. The first hit might be accidental, but if you can't accept it, you can never accept it. If a man hits you, you have to say to them, never do that again. Because if you don't say anything, you empower the man to do it again. Right? As much as you might feel like you really love this man and you really want to be with this guy, as a man saying to a woman, or even my friend or my sister, you can't stay with that man. That man will do it again. Because if he loves you, he can't hit you. That is just a fact of life. For those who are going through sexual abuse, you might be in a situation where you can't do anything about it. If it's your mother or your father or something, you know, where if you're young, what you're gonna do? Do you really want to go to social services and then get put in an orphanage? You know, that kind of life is really, could be even worse than where you're coming from. I think the safeguards would probably be needed. We invest a lot of money in different things here in terms of the government. I'm not sure exactly as to what we invest in with abused women and children. You know, they would need that. For those who have experienced it, if not yet received therapy, then I would recommend that they, well, again too, is if they've already put it behind them. But if they could help other people, that would be great too. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed about. You know, I'm not ashamed at all about what happened. There's nothing I could have done about it, but I do think that I'm helping a lot of people right now, you know, speaking about it.
Okay, but you would have had to go through a process to get you to reach to a point where you're able to share so openly and freely.
Yeah, in my teenage years, 12, 13, I was very suicidal. I just couldn't figure out how to do it. You know, okay, cut your wrists. And then I was thinking, okay, have a good football game next week. I wanted to see that. You know, so life happens along the way. You look for small things to keep you going, you know. But, you know, the challenges that you face, you just have to, inside yourself or inside in your mind, you just gravitate towards something that gives you hope. Because hope is what drives us as people. We hope for a better day, we hope for a better job, better salary. We hope that things will change, you know. If you take away hope from a man, he has nothing left, regardless of how much money he has. So I think giving people hope about, especially young people, about hanging in there is very important. You meet young people in life who like we see at the high schools and stuff, the secondary schools. You know, you're watching the videos on YouTube and you're wondering what's going on here, you know. And I think it starts from home, whether it is proper parentage or abuse. It goes hand in hand. Kids are saying things at a very young age that are just not their words. It is words, when you listen to it, that comes from an adult. And that's a warning sign already that, okay, this home is having these things.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Sheldon, thanks so much for coming and thanks for sharing your story, and hopefully someone viewing would be empowered to share their experiences as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's good, man. If they do, then I think that they would feel much better for doing so. And it would help a lot of people as well.